So one of the things that I did before, if you go to my effects folder, you might be able to see, I created a little particle effect for the fountain. And I wanted to make this three-dimensional cubes because I thought the 2D sprites for this might look a little bit weird. So I just wanted to make something different that I think looks cool. It has some volume to it. It just looks different. So strictly personal taste, you can do whatever you want. But what I'm going to do for this is create another fountain here. Sorry, the fountain is the name of the Niagara system, but what I'm going to create is a new effect for the splashes here. So I'm going to go here to my effects folder, Ctrl-Shift-N, and I'm going to say splash wheel. Click in it, go in here and create a Niagara system. So there are several behaviors, and I have whole classes that you can find in the Epic learning about particle effects and Niagara. That's something that I'm very passionate about. But for the sake of this, I'm just trying to show you a little bit of example as a starter for you to do a deep dive after the fact. So what I want is something that keeps going forever. And the best way to do that, a particle that keeps repeating forever, is a fountain. Okay, fountain is just a type of behavior that you can adjust in order to make that look more interesting. So I'm just going to create, I'm going to say NS, naming convention for this, splash wheel. And I can just drag that to the scene and you're going to be able to see really, oh, why is it not showing? I guess I need to save. There you go. You're going to be able to see really quickly how a 2D particle looks like, which is why I didn't want to use it. I'm going to put that as a child of the wheel. Make sure that that stuff is there. And I'm going to take this chance to just position this where I want this to be, which is by the base of the water here. Okay. And I know right now that doesn't look that good, but we're going to be playing with this. So just bear with me. Just double click to the particle effect. And I'm going to move this to the side so we can see there's changes happening in real time. I'm just opening the window to have a little bit more real estate so we can make those changes. So the first thing I'm going to do, you see that I'm rendering. Everything is like it's one after the other. So you have the update, the spawn of the particle, then what happens with the particle over life, when the particle is alive, and then you have the rendering. So all of this has this order because that's the order operations that a particle needs to exist inside the system. So what I want to do first is instead of using sprite renderer, just going to uncheck, I'm going to look for mesh render. And inside my mesh render where it says mesh, I'm just going to look for cube. And this one here seems to be good. And just like that, they're like a massive, which is something that we're going to have to deal with. So because my cubes are massive, and that can be cool, how much of them intersecting does look like a volume of some sort. But what I need to do is go to my initialize particle. I don't care about sprites anymore, so I'm going to delete this information. But I do care about the mesh. I'm going to say this is a uniform, and the size of it is 0.1. There you go, 0.05. So I'm saying that mesh is 0.01 or 0.05, and there is no size variation. If I change the uniform to random uniform, some of them will be 0.1, some of them will be 0.02. That can be also interesting if you want to add some variation, which I think is fine. So let's say it's 0.05. So there's a little bit of variation in the size, so they're not all the same size. I don't really care about scaling color over life because this was a particle thing. So yeah, sprite thing, so I'm going to delete that. But in my mesh render, I want to go to material overrides here and make sure that I apply the material that I have created before. And I can go after we set up this particle effect and all the things that I did, but it's just a very basic material with blue color. It has some Fresnel, so the edge is a little bit white. And that's cool. What I want to do here though, like everything's coming from a point and then it goes so high. I don't want that. So I'm going to go to my shape location where it says sphere. Imagine there's a sphere there. There's a radius of 8. If I increase it, you can see they're going to start popping from a bigger radius. You can actually see that in here, that happening. And I'm going to just use a plane. 100 by 100, that's where they're coming from. And I do think that they're going too high. So that's what we're going to be fixing next. I'm gonna go to my velocity, is a 500 by 800. I'm just gonna divide this by 3. I just want to lightly resemble that there is something there. You can press G. It might be that we actually might need to create a new material. So I'm gonna Ctrl C, Ctrl V this here. I'm gonna rename this effects, splash. Just because I feel like this should be white instead of blue. To simulate white water, I think. It might look a little bit cooler. And the only thing that you can see here is that these particles are living forever. And we don't want this. We want them to die right away. We just want them to be on the surface here. So we can either put a Q box, or if we go to our initialized particle, we can reduce the amount of time that this is alive. And we can just put like a direct set. So those particles are alive by 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. There you go. So very simple detail that we add, and it just adds movement to the scene. What we can do, in order to add a little bit more variation, if we go to our update over life, we can look for curl. Remember we did some curl noises for the river? We can also do that for particles. And then increase the strength. Until we start really seeing stuff going crazy. We can decrease the frequency. So 10, 800. The loss is still a little bit strong. So we're gonna add a little bit of drag. So like 6. And if you don't want the gravity to be affecting as much, be a little bit lighter, we can just half the gravity. That was probably too much, so minus 800. I just want something that resembles water, but it's just a small detail in my environment. I don't want it to be super visible. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the same particle effect to the bottom of this wheel. On the back. I don't think the player is going to be able to see, but just put it there. There's so many, so little amount of particles that it's not even going to affect performance in any way. That said, let's go to our splash wheel material, the one I had created before. And it's very straightforward, folks. I'm just driving a mask, okay? I'm putting the metallic value and a roughness value. And this mask here is driven by this Fresnel. So wherever is white, the white's going to be applied. Wherever is dark, the blue is going to be applied. Which is okay. But I think in this case here, the best would have been actually to make an instance, because I forgot to parameterize that. So I'm going to delete it, go to my water fountain, I'm going to create a material instance, put that in a splash wheel, and mi effects splash wheel. Those are the only values that matter to me right now, which is the color. But I do need to go to my mesh here and select the material there. Save it. And I can just really just flip this. So I'm going to copy this, paste here. And the other one is going to be white. And if I want, I can just play with the values here. To see how much of that is coming in. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. If you really want to add more detail to it, you can also add a sprite render in it to make it a little bit more foggy, but I don't think this is gonna look very good. But if there's like illumination here, so just go to scale color, and if you go to alpha here and put 0.1, oh, actually, not bad. Not bad at all. 0.001 though. Just a little bit of a haze. Not bad. Actually, it looks cool. That was an accident. Wasn't planned. So you have a little bit of that haze there. And yeah, let's take a look. Ooh, you know what I did when I put inside and I'm rotating that stuff? It's actually rotating the whole thing. Not Gucci. So I still want to have this thing like this because everything is grouped correctly. So I'm gonna open the thing there really quick, open level sequence, and I'm just gonna add this in here and just copy my rotation to this. Is it gonna allow me to? Yes, it will. And then delete the one from the other one. The problem is that I have a location thing here. So I need to zero out. Also, for some reason, I'm gonna have to add scale. This was a disaster. This was a disaster. That's okay, we're gonna roll the punches. There you go. It's back to how it was. Save. Oh my god. It's rotating the wrong angle. Let's fix that right now. I should have preview here to see what's happening. This is my fault. So for normal rotation, it should be roll. So very straightforward. We're gonna just delete this thing here from scratch. So we're gonna go to frame 0. This doesn't matter. This should be 90 probably. Well, 85. My roll in here is gonna be a linear 1, and then I'm gonna go to frame 150, and that's gonna be 360. Oops. It's a huge problem here, folks. No, it's correct. Okay, save it. And let's take a look. There you go. But yeah, there was a problem. I put the wrong direction. Oh my god, I'm checking this 10 times. But again, it's good that you see me creating these mistakes. So if you go to a similar one, at least you know why they're happening. So it's going to be 360, and the next one's going to be 0. Save. There are easy ways to do this, by the way. I'm just trying to keep it simple, simplified, and look at that. It looks pretty cool. So next, what I want to do is create another particle effect, so like a fire, and I want to put this fire right in the beginning of the map. So we're gonna use the same approach to create a fire particle effects with a bunch of interesting cubes. I'm gonna put right here. So let's create a new folder, fire. You're the gas it, right click, Niagara system, fountain, and as fire. And you can just double click in that. And just for a sanity check, I'm gonna plug into the world so we can see what we're doing. So first thing we need to do, disable the sprites. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna make a mesh render. Let's look for the cube. And we use the one that was right above cube 1, so this one here. And just like that stuff is huge. So initialize particle, we don't care about the sprite saggings, but we do care about mesh saggings. And I'm gonna say 0.1 just to see. That's probably too big. So minimum 0.05. 0.01. That velocity is just going so crazy. So I'm going to divide this by 4. Divide by 4. We don't need gravity in this, to be honest. So it can be like a positive amount. So say 10 or 5. And what we need is to make the location a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use sphere. That's totally fine. So I'm going to say tugging. The add velocity is adding in a cone angle, so it tends to open up. I don't want that, so I'm going to actually say linear on the top, on the Z axis. So you can see there it's going up. And what I can do here, here's a cool trick for you. you can just go here and you see there's a drop down, like there's always like a tiny arrow. You can always expose that and override. So it goes from different settings here. So the minimum would be 50, the maximum would be 80. So you have different speeds for the fire. Pretty cool. They kind of disappear, but that's totally fine. It's like not really a huge problem. What I can do is add a new noise. So if I go down here in this menu, we can look for our noises. Oh my god, what is happening with me? Is it forces? And let's add a vector noise. There you go. So it looks like they're floating here and there. We could add the sprites after the fact to bake the embers if you want. I'm going to show you how to do that. But the main fire is this, and for that, I'm going to go to a mesh render, enable material override, add to material override. For this one here, let's just add a new material altogether, set a material instance. So I'm just going to go to our fountain, copy this, put here. I'm going to rename this to fire. Because what I want to do with this, I actually have something in the emissive color. And if I do this, I can actually multiply by a value. And I can say ask for a scalar, emissive strength. I'm going to say that's a 2. Doesn't need to be crazy. And for the colors, let's do like a red. And a yellow. Or orange. Or should be the opposite. Should be orange around and red in the corner. I think so, right? Now I'm confused. I'm not entirely remember what would be the best way to display. So we're just going to be try and error. There you go. Save. And just apply our material there. Ooh, nice. It's clearly too much emissiveness because we have some post-processing happening here. So I'm just going to go here and say 0.2. 0.5. Let's see, one is kind of neat. Last also, scale sprite size. Now essentially is a curve. So it starts small and becomes big. What we actually want to do, oh, not scale sprite size, scale mesh size. Scale mesh size. And we're going to expose this as a curve. And we have 3 vectors of information. So we can just select all of them and just go here and pick the one that starts small, gets big, and then becomes small again. And that looks a little bit more like what we will have. You can play with the curve too. Pretty sweet. In initialize particle, we can also decrease this life. I think it's too big. Yeah, that looks way cooler. And what you can do in spawn rate is say 90, we can just multiply this by 2. So we have double the amount of particles being born. So it's a little bit more chunky, that fire. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to make a new folder for all of this stuff that we're creating that's separate. I'm going to say 06 effects. And for this fire here, I'm actually going to go to my art. Fantasy Forest. I think we have like a piece of wood we can put outside. Maybe he's a platformer kid. We do have a bomb. If you want to explode something. I'm just looking for a small piece of wood. Something that we can put to mask the bottom of that asset. We can use this, but I saw a better one. Trying to find it. Castle maybe? Oh, right, there you go. That's the tree log right there. So we can just do that classic tree log arrangement, if you know what I'm talking about. They're probably will be too big, so just select them both. And let's uniform scaling 2.5. And what usually people do is something like this, I think. Oh, I select the wrong thing. And I'm going to select the other one and just alt click and rotate to the other side. Honestly, I could just put inside here and group inside fire. Or put inside the actor if you want. So you can move all together when you duplicate this fire. Up to you. But I'm going to actually move this a little bit up. So we see some of that wood. Just set dress in there. And now I actually think that maybe a particle has a little bit of a too big of a shape location. So I'm gonna go here and say 10. There you go. Which means that we can probably reduce this by 2. It's looking very nice. The velocity can probably be smaller too. So I'm gonna say divided by 2, divided by 2. Actually, this can be like this. Let's add another noise. Let's see if we can add some curl noise again. I'm a huge fan of curl noises. Yeah. I don't know. Looks cool. And like I promised, if you want to add embers to this, here's the fastest way to do it. So I can just rename this thing here to my 3D fire. I can right click here or press E and create another fountain. Whoa, shooting like crazy. On this one here is where it says scale color. I can just go and do like a linear vector color, say curve, color from curve. And this is when the color starts and when it ends. So I'm going to say it starts with a very bright red and it ends with a very bright orange. And I can just delete this, and this. What is cool about this is that I can just add to the value here. So I can just say my value is actually 1.5. So it has a little bit of an emissive aspect to it. And here, I'm also going to do the same thing. My value is 1.5. I'm going to initialize this particle, make this particle super tiny. I'm also going to direct set the life. They all leave 0.1, 0.2, 0.5. It's probably good enough. The size here, I'm going to make it divided by 4. There you go. The velocity is insane. So I'm going to divide this by 6. Divide by 6. It's probably an issue there. I'm going to increase my shape area so they're coming into the sides. And you know what I'm going to do, folks? I'm going to decrease, which essentially means moving up to minus 300, the gravity. Pretty cool.